Shields up, Ironbreakers, Rurikon here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter, and today I would like to talk about Gunlance. Now, as you guys know, I've been playing quite a bit of Gunlance recently, whether it is in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate or during the Iceborne demo. I've just been considering maining Gunlance for the upcoming Iceborne expansion, and as such, I've been playing quite a bit of Gunlance, getting hyped up about it. And I know that the new ability of the Gunlance has the community a little bit divided because of that video that I did for feedback. A lot of people think it's okay, a lot of people think it's overpowered, a lot of people think it's trash. And, you know, I get that, but it's like I feel that we need to wait until we can actually use that thing with +3 artillery to really see how good that thing can become. I do still want to play that weapon when Iceborne hits. And as such, I went back into Monster Hunter World and I decided to upgrade my Gunlance builds, basically updating them to the current gear that is available in the game and just making builds around each shelling playstyle, which means you're going to get a build for normal shelling, for wide shelling, and for long shelling. Now, there's an important thing here that I need to warn you guys. This is going to involve Kolv to Roth weapons. And I can already see a bunch of people crying foul, but look, here's the way these things work. You can craft one Gunlance that has normal shelling level 4. One. And that is the Rathian one. I don't even remember the name of that Gunlance. I haven't used it in ages. But the Rathian Gunlance, if you are going with a crafted Gunlance, is the best normal Gunlance. Unfortunately, you cannot craft wide shelling level 4 or long shelling level 4 in base Monster Hunter World. You just can't craft it. So the only way to get those Gunlances is to go hunt Kolv to Roth. So before you cry foul, it's like, this is not my fault. This is the way that Gunlances work in World. I have been focusing a lot on actually using shelling, and as such, I need the level 4 shelling. I'm not going for the meta playstyle of slap lancing, which is when you just like go to a ledge and then just jump backwards and smack and smack and smack and smack. I don't really find that particular playstyle appealing. Like, if you like that stuff, that's cool, more power to you, but that's not what my builds are about. My builds are about using the actual shells on the Gunlance, which is what makes it fun for me. So, just remember, I don't want to see comments of people going like, oh, but Kolv to Roth weapons, Kolv to Roth RNGs. Like, it's not my fault, okay? There's no getting around it. If you want to do, like, the best long shelling Gunlance that you can get, you need to go do Kolv to Roth. You need a long shelling level 4 Gunlance. That's just the way these things work. Also, a lot of these builds might be heavy on certain decorations. Again, these are builds that I made for my personal use, so if you don't have those decorations, again, I'm sorry. Can't do anything about that. I try to work in as much stuff to help people out as possible, but you do get to a certain point where if you want to get certain skills, you're going to need to use certain decorations. There's no way around it. Anyway, let's begin. We're going to start with the normal shelling build. Now, this is going to focus on full burst, as you guys can imagine, and the Gunlance that we are using here is the Tear-Off Buster Sleep. Now, this is one of the best, if not the best, shelling level 4 Gunlance. I haven't actually looked at all of the Gunlances available in a while. This is just the one that I had available to me because I've done quite a bit of Kolv to Roth, as you guys can imagine. And the advantage of this particular Gunlance is that it's got normal shelling level 4 and it's got Hidden Element, which is going to allow you to use Elementalist, thus increasing the melee damage for when you are doing this full burst combo. So you're going to deal quite a bit of melee damage, and you're also going to deal quite a bit of damage through shelling. Okay, but again, the focus here is on the shelling itself. Now, on the Tear-Off Buster Sleep, we're going to sock it in with an Elementalist Jewel. So basically, if you're replacing the Rathian Gunlance in this build for the Tear-Off Buster Sleep, you don't have to change anything else. You just change the Gunlance and you're good. Okay, and you can augment it however you like. I believe that the Rathian Gunlance can be augmented twice, so I would go for health regen and affinity. On this one right now, we are using health regen because you can only augment this particular Gunlance once. Anyway, then we're going to be going into the Kushala Glare Gamma. We're going to get some handicraft in here because I want to get as much sharpness as possible because full burst shelling is going to eat through your sharpness like nobody's business. And you're going to put a shield jewel in there. If you do not have a shield jewel, it's not critical. This is more of a quality of life type of thing than necessarily something that you need to have. You can put anything else you want in there, really. Maybe even put a sharp jewel in there if you want, although you don't really have to because we're going to have razor sharp spare shot, so the sharp decoration is not going to be as important. Anyway, we're then going to move on to Basal Male Beta. We're going to want to get some guard. Again, this is quality of life. You don't always have to block as much with the Gunlance, but I want to have level 3 guard on all of my Gunlances so that I can block whenever I feel like blocking. Again, it is a quality of life thing. Like I said, these are very specific builds tailored to my needs. They don't necessarily reflect how everybody plays Gunlance, not by a long shot. Probably a lot of people don't play Gunlance like this. And we're going to put 2 Vitality Jewels in there. Then we're going to move on to Xeno'jiiva Claws Gamma. I don't really want the skills that this particular item brings, but I want to have the Xeno'jiiva set bonus so that we can have razor sharp spare shots so that we can shell non-stop. So that is the reason why you're getting Xeno'jiiva Claws here. I'm going to put 2 Tenderizer Jewels in there as well as an Artillery Jewel. You're going to need 3 Artillery Jewels. I know, it's rough. I've been there. Sorry. Feels bad. Xeno'jiiva Spine Gamma, pretty much the same thing. I want to get that razor sharp spare shot. I'm going to put a Magazine Jewel in there together with an Artillery Jewel. Xeno'jiiva Spurs Gamma. Again, I want the razor sharp spare shot, Tenderizer Jewel level 2, and an Artillery Jewel as well as an Iron Wall Jewel. And then you round out the set with a Handicraft Charm. Now, if you don't have Artillery decorations, replace the Handicraft Charm with an Artillery Charm, and you're just going to struggle a bit with sharpness, because having wide sharpness does shine a little bit on this build, because you're not going to be able to go as deep into the affinity meta as I would like. But you know, it is what it is. Now, once you get this set fully locked and loaded, here's the skills that you're looking at. Handicraft level 5, Weakness Exploit level 3, Artillery level 3, Guard level 3, Health Boost level 2. I'd love to get level 3, but we can only get to 2. Critical Boost level 2. This comes from Xeno'jiiva. I'm not specifically going for Critical Boost, but, you know, it's a little bit more damage that you get. Power Prolonger, again, it's a side consequence of Xeno'jiiva. Capacity Boost, Special Ammo Boost from Xeno'jiiva. Guard Up, and Non-Elemental Boost. And then with set bonuses, you have Xeno'jiiva's Divinity, which gives you Razor Sharp Spare Shot, which basically allows you to, you know, do full burst a lot more times before you actually need to sharpen your weapon. I've tested quite a few builds, and I wanted to get some stuff that would do both quality of life as well as give a decent amount of damage with full burst. I still feel that full burst is not like a super optimal playstyle. It still feels kind of weird for me when you get to endgame, because there's so much commitment to doing a full burst combo. As a matter of fact, I've gotten into a discussion recently on my live stream. People were saying, oh, super amped elemental discharge is hard. And I'm like, I completely disagree. It's a lot easier to land a super amped elemental discharge than it is to maintain a full burst combo. But, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So it doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean the person that I was arguing with was right. It just means that we got different viewpoints on that. But yeah, full burst is still a little bit weird for me in a lot of ways. But, you know, it's a good thing that I'll get to practice it some more once Iceborne hits, because after going through a big portion of the story, I just stopped using Gunlances altogether and started moving on to Charge Blade and other weapons, and barely touched full burst again. I only touched it on the Gunlance once we got to wide shelling. Yeah, that was good times. Okay, so now let's take a look at long shelling. And this is a bit of a niche playstyle. I have to admit, I don't usually see a lot of players using long shelling. I myself have barely ever really used long shelling because it just feels kind of weird. Sometimes some of the moves you feel like the charged shell doesn't really come off as consistently as you would like, but maybe that's just lack of practice on my part. I'm not really going to complain about that. It's just I find it to be much more of a niche playstyle because I so rarely see people actually using long shelling. Now, in this particular build for long shelling, I'm not using anything else beyond long shelling because I just find that if you really want to focus on it, I figured you might as well just like optimize everything to just shell. Just shell. Long shell after long shell into the monster nonstop. So the weapon that we're going to be using for that is the King Gold Exploder. And I know you guys are going to look at that and it's a rarity 6 weapon. What the hell are you doing? The reason we're doing this is because I'm going to put a lot of health regen on this particular build. And I do mean a lot. We're going to be life stealing quite a bit with this build, because usually when you are charging up your shells, you're left wide open for quite a long period of time. It almost makes me wish that you would get like a guard point or something when you boot up a charged shell. That would make it a little bit more interesting, but basically you're wide open, just like sitting there charging your little wide shell until it eventually charges up and you get a shot off. And that is quite a bit of a window during which you are open, which most likely will cause you to get hit. It definitely causes me to get hit. So we're going to get the King Gold Exploder, because what you really want is the long shelling level 4, which this Gunlance has. And then you can stack 3 health regens on top of that. And I know that there's diminishing returns, but when I look at all of the other things, the one thing that I might want could be potentially like a socket. But even then, I don't think I'd rather have a socket over a little bit more health regen. So we're going real deep into health regen. And feel free to leave your feedback in the comment section down below, because, like I said, I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to long shelling. So let me know in the comment section down below if you would do something differently with this build. But this is what I kind of came up with. So 3 health regen augments on top of that King Gold Explorer. And before you guys think, oh my god, I'm gonna need to get like all these gems and all these things, it's considerably easier to augment rarity 6 weapons than it is to augment rarity 7 and rarity 8. You guys just check the materials. It's not that hard to get level 3 health regens on there, at least from my experience. Moving on onto the helmet, we have Basal Helm Beta. I'm gonna be going for earplugs for this build to prevent getting interrupted in the middle of a charged shell, and also to use the openings of the roars to charge shell in there. It's just like try to charge shell as much as you can. Now we're going to put a jumping jewel on there with a satiated jewel. Now these two, they're pretty much optional. I would like to have a lot more evade extender in this build, but I just wasn't able to slot it in. There is an opportunity here for swapping a shield jewel for another jumping jewel depending on the monster that you're fighting, but I'm just presenting you with the overall build. And again, satiated, very much situational. You can replace this with whatever you want. It's just I figured I had this free socket and I was like, what am I going to put on there? Might as well put satiated. Don't really care that much. Then we got the Basal Mail Beta. We're going to be going for guard again, and we're going to put an Iron Wall Jewel in there as well as a Vitality Jewel. Then we got the Kushala Grips Gamma, because you're going to need focus if you want to do charged shells a little bit faster so that it reduces the window during which you are open. And then you will want to get 3 artillery jewels in there. And I know, again, it is hard. And basically, if you don't have artillery jewels this time around, you are talking about sacrificing earplugs, which kind of sucks, but there's not a lot of options. You got to have 3 artillery, and I wanted to have earplugs as well, so I'm using an earplugs charm. You know, you can replace that, but you can't really replace the earplugs. You're going to be missing out on some key skills, is what I'm saying, if you don't have artillery decos. Then you got the Damascus Coil Beta to finish out the focus, and you guys are like, whoa, medicine jewels? What the hell are you doing? Like I said, I want a lot of health steal on this build. I'm gonna get a lot of survivability on this build because I feel like I get hit a lot with this build. So I put 3 medicine jewels in there. Just like really make use of those 3 augments of health regen. Like, I would say this makes you close to invulnerable depending on how well you are playing, but basically it allows you to make a lot of mistakes and still be alive and still be shelling in a monster's face. Then finally we round things out with Empress Greaves Beta, with a shield jewel and a magazine jewel, because naturally you want the shell as often as you can, and having that additional shell in your chamber is going to help you out. And naturally the earplugs charm, like I said. If you then look at the final version of this build, you are looking at earplugs level 5, health boost level 3, recovery up level 3, focus level 3, artillery level 3, guard level 3, capacity boost level 1, evade extender level 1. Like I said, you can replace the guard up depending on the monster that you're fighting. If he doesn't have like unblockable attacks, just replace the guard up with an evade extender. You'll get a little bit more mobility, free meal, and guard up. And this time around, we are not taking the Xenojiva bonus, because long shelling, usually you get the monster to move away from you before you get to yellow in your sharpness. And, you know, when the monster moves away, you can just resharpen before you move on to the next area, so it's not as important. Whereas Slam Burst eats through your sharpness way faster than long shelling. So, this is what I came up with for long shelling. I used it yesterday, tested it out on a tempered Lunastra, because someone in chat said, hey, I think it was actually Kegrin. Kegrin came up and said, I want you to try using that on the Lunastra, get your ass kicked. And we actually killed tempered Lunastra without much issue. It did take a little bit longer than I would like, but I feel that potentially with practice, it could get a lot faster, because, it is a playstyle that I haven't done all that much. But yeah, I'm very curious to know what you guys have to say about that. Do you use melee at all? Do people use melee in long shelling? Very curious to know about that. Hit it up in the comment section down below. And then finally, we come to the Facebuster. Wide shelling. This is the updated build that I've done for the Facebuster, and essentially, the main changes that I've made to the build are to include a razor sharp spare shot, so that you don't have to sharpen as much as you do in the current version of the Kjar Facebuster. And I also replaced the weapon on it. I'm no longer using the Kjar Bomber Buster, whatever it's called, the tear-off version of the level 4 wide shelling Gunlance. I actually swapped it for the Bomber Gold Exploder, the Rarity 6 version. And the reason I did it is very much the same reason that I use the Rarity 6 Gunlance in the long shelling, is so that we can have more health regen, because I'm focusing mostly on the shelling than necessarily on the poking. If you want to do the poke shell, you can do that. That's not really what this particular build is about, because I don't really like the poke shell all that much, because sometimes you get into monsters that have, like, those areas that you can't really poke, because if you have a Mind's Eye, you can always poke shell, but I don't have Mind's Eye, so I can't really do that. So sometimes you get into monsters that have those areas that you can't really poke through, and I don't like wasting time. I just shell through that stuff. I just shell nonstop. Shell. That's the point of this build. Shell and survive. So we go with the Bomber Golder Exploder. We just stack it with 3 health regen decorations like a fucking maniac. And then we move on to the Basal Helm Beta. Again, we are going to go for the earplugs, because I don't want to be stopping for nothing when it comes to the Facebuster. It's just like shell, unload nonstop. And we're going to put a shield jewel in there. Again, you can replace this depending on the monster that you're fighting. It is a quality of life thing. Like, for instance, if you're fighting a Teostra, this is very useful to block that Nova, basically. And we put an artillery decoration in there. Again, this is one of those builds that if you do not have artillery decorations, you're going to be sacrificing the earplugs for them, and you're going to have to deal with roars. Those, it's the quality of life thing that I have in the build. Again, Basal Mail Beta. We're going to get that level 2 guard in here with 2 artillery decorations. And then we have the 3-piece Xenojiva, which, like I said before, I just get this so that I can get a razor sharp spare shot, so the skills don't really matter all that much. And the decorations that you're going to be putting on them is 2 jumping jewels and 1 iron wall jewel in the claws, a magazine jewel and a vitality jewel in the belt. And this magazine jewel is because I found that sometimes as I was shelling, I would be interrupted, and then I would only have like 1 shell left before I would have to reload. So this just kind of makes it a little bit easier. If you're interrupted in the middle of a shell, you still have 2 shells left, so you can resume your regular combo. It's just a quality of life thing. You can replace that. It's not a big deal. Vitality decoration, jumping jewel, and 2 vitality decorations to really fill out your health, and you round things out with an earplugs charm. The final build looks like this: level 5 earplugs, level 3 health boost, level 3 artillery, level 3 evade extender, level 3 guard, 2 critical boost, power prolonger, and special ammo boost. You don't need those. Capacity boost, guard up, and Xenojiva Divinity, giving you razor sharp spare shot. And you guys know how I usually play the Facebuster build, so I don't have to emphasize too much. You just shell, reload, shell, reload until the monster dies. Naturally, put a couple of Wyvern's Fire in there for good measure, but pretty much just shell until dead. That's how this build works. And with the razor sharp spare shot, it's actually a really good quality of life thing that I didn't have in my previous Facebuster builds. And it just feels a lot better, because you basically don't have to worry about sharpening. The monster will always change areas before you need to sharpen, regardless of what monster you're fighting. So those are my 3 builds. Very curious about your feedback, because Gunlance is one of those weapons that, as much as I've played it, it is my 2nd most played weapon, mostly because of wide shelling, but it is my 2nd most played weapon during Monster Hunter World. My first played weapon is Charge Blade. Charge Blade is just so damn good. But let me know your feedback on these builds in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit it up with a like. It really helps and supports the channel more than you can possibly imagine. Just like hitting that like button helps me out a lot. And if you guys usually enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of that good stuff. Can't wait to see your comments in the comment section down below. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.